When we look at the landscape of Europe, one of the most fascinating aspects is its tapestry of cultures, histories, and, intriguingly, currencies. The euro, introduced in 1989, was envisioned as a unifying currency designed to foster economic integration and simplify everything from travel to trade across much of the continent. Yet, not all European Union countries, and certainly not all countries in Europe, have adopted the euro as their official currency. Instead, several nations continue to use their own unique currencies, each with its own history, significance, and practical impact. The question arises, why do some countries choose to retain their own currencies rather than adopting the common EU currency, the euro? The answer, as with so many matters of policy, is multifaceted, shaped by a blend of economic, political, historical, and even cultural considerations. To understand this, we need to begin by exploring how the euro came into being and what it represents for those who use it. The euro was born out of the Maastricht Treaty, signed in 1992, which laid the groundwork for greater economic and political union among the member states of the European Union. The idea was to make it easier for people, goods, services, and capital to move freely across borders, helping European economies to grow together, not apart. In theory, a single currency would eliminate the headaches of constantly exchanging money, would make prices more transparent, and would tie countries more closely together, reducing the risk of future conflicts. And for many, the euro has delivered on these promises. It's estimated that over 340 million people use the euro daily, making it the world's second most traded currency after the US dollar. But joining the euro is not just a matter of swapping one set of coins and notes for another. To become part of the eurozone, the group of EU countries that have adopted the euro, a country must meet strict criteria known as the convergence criteria, or Maastricht criteria. These include requirements on inflation rates, government finances, exchange rate stability, and long-term interest rates. The idea is to ensure that all eurozone economies are stable and able to work together under one monetary policy, managed by the European Central Bank. Yet, even with the benefits and the prestige of joining the euro, some countries have chosen to keep their own currencies. Let's look at why. First and foremost are the economic reasons. Currency is more than just a medium of exchange. It's a powerful tool for managing a country's economy. By holding on to their own currencies, national governments retain control over their monetary policy. They can adjust interest rates, influence inflation, and manage their exchange rates to suit their unique economic needs. This flexibility can be especially important for countries whose economies differ significantly from those of their neighbors. Take Sweden as an example. Sweden joined the European Union in 1995 and was, in principle, obligated to adopt the euro once it met the convergence criteria. However, Swedes voted in a 2003 referendum to keep their own currency, the Swedish krona. One of the main arguments was the desire to keep control over national monetary policy. Sweden's central bank, the Riksbank, could set interest rates in response to conditions in the Swedish economy, rather than being tied to the needs of the entire eurozone, which often reflect the circumstances of much larger economies like Germany or France. Similarly, Denmark, another founding member of the European Union's single market, has also chosen not to adopt the euro. In Denmark's case, the country negotiated an official opt-out from the euro under the Edinburgh Agreement of 1992. A referendum in 2000 confirmed the Danish people's preference to stick with the Danish krone. Like Sweden, Denmark values the autonomy that comes with having its own currency, even though the krone is closely pegged to the euro, to ensure stability. Then there's the United Kingdom, which, until Brexit, was one of the EU's largest and most influential members. The UK negotiated an opt-out from the euro when it signed the Maastricht Treaty, and successive governments made it clear that adopting the euro would require a public referendum. The pound sterling remained a potent symbol of British economic independence and national identity, and surveys consistently showed that a majority of Britons preferred to keep the pound. Other countries, like Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic, are newer members of the EU and, in theory, are required to adopt the euro once they meet the convergence criteria. However, the process is not automatic. These countries have taken a cautious approach, preferring to wait until the economic conditions are right, or until public opinion shifts more firmly in favor of adopting the euro. Economic flexibility is a major reason for this caution. When a country gives up its own currency, it also gives up its independent monetary policy. That means it can no longer devalue its currency to make its exports cheaper, or raise interest rates to fight inflation, or adjust its money supply in response to a crisis. Instead, it must rely on the European Central Bank, which sets policy for the entire Eurozone. For countries with economies that are very different from the Eurozone average, this can be a source of concern. The global financial crisis of 2008 and the subsequent European sovereign debt crisis brought these issues into sharp relief. Countries like Greece, Spain, Portugal, and Ireland found themselves unable to use monetary policy tools to respond to their national crises, because those tools were now in the hands of the European Central Bank. Meanwhile, countries outside the Eurozone, like Poland and the Czech Republic, were able to adjust their own currencies and interest rates to better weather the storm. Beyond economics, there are political and cultural reasons for holding on to a national currency. Currency is, after all, a symbol of sovereignty. The designs on coins and notes often feature national heroes, landmarks, and symbols, serving as daily reminders of a country's unique history and identity. For many people, giving up the national currency feels like giving up a piece of their national character. In the case of the UK, the pound sterling is one of the world's oldest currencies, with a history stretching back more than 1,000 years. The image of the monarch on British coins, the iconic notes with images of national figures like Winston Churchill and Jane Austen, these are more than just pieces of paper and metal. They're woven into the fabric of British life. For Denmark, the krone carries similar symbolism. The Danish central bank takes great pride in the design and production of its notes and coins, and the krone is seen as a tangible link to Denmark's past and its independence. Public opinion plays a critical role as well. In many countries, referendums or public surveys have shown a clear preference for keeping the national currency. People worry that adopting the euro could lead to higher prices, as happened in some countries when they made the switch. They also worry about losing control over economic policy, particularly in times of crisis. There are, of course, practical considerations too. Changing currencies is a complex and costly process. Banks, businesses, and government agencies must adapt their systems. People need to exchange their old money for new, and there's always the risk of confusion or even fraud during the transition. For countries with strong, stable currencies, the benefits of switching to the euro may not seem worth the trouble. It's also important to note that not all countries in Europe are members of the European Union. Nations like Norway, Switzerland, and Iceland are part of Europe, but have never joined the EU. These countries have strong economies and stable currencies of their own, the Norwegian krone, the Swiss franc, and the Icelandic krona, and have little incentive to adopt the euro. Switzerland, in particular, is known for its financial stability and the global reputation of the Swiss franc. The country's decision to remain outside the EU and retain its currency is rooted in a long tradition of political neutrality and economic independence. Norway, powered by its oil wealth, has also chosen to remain outside the EU. The Norwegian krone is a source of national pride and economic flexibility, allowing the country to manage its resources and economy in a way that suits its unique circumstances. Even within the Eurozone, the experience of adopting the euro has been mixed. For some countries, it has brought greater stability, lower interest rates, and increased trade. For others, particularly those hit hard by the debt crisis, the inability to control their own monetary policy has been a significant challenge. The debate over whether to adopt the euro continues in many countries. In Poland, for example, opinion polls show that a majority of citizens are skeptical about giving up the Polish zloty, despite the government's official commitment to eventually join the euro. In Hungary and the Czech Republic, similar debates play out, with concerns about economic stability, national identity, and the timing of any potential switch. Some countries have chosen to peg their currencies to the euro, maintaining a fixed exchange rate to ensure stability while retaining formal independence. Denmark is a prime example, as its krone is pegged tightly to the euro, ensuring stability in trade and investment while preserving the symbolic value of the national currency. In summary, the reasons why some countries use their own currencies rather than the euro are complex and varied. Economic flexibility, political independence, cultural identity, public opinion, and practical considerations all play a role. For some, the benefits of joining the euro outweigh the costs, bringing them closer to the heart of the European project. For others, the risks and sacrifices are simply too great. As Europe continues to evolve, the currency question remains a potent symbol of the balance between unity and diversity, integration and independence. It's a reminder that, even in an age of globalization and cooperation, the choices nations make about their money are deeply personal, rooted in history, identity, and the ever-changing tides of politics and economics. Ultimately, the euro is both a powerful tool and a powerful symbol, a testament to what European countries can achieve when they work together, but also a reminder of the enduring importance of national sovereignty and self-determination. Whether more countries will choose to join the Eurozone in the future remains to be seen. But for now, the mosaic of currencies in Europe tells a story of a continent that values both unity and diversity, integration and independence, each in its own measure.